Donald Trump and his campaign have spent a surprisingly small amount of money on ad space over the next few months to air their campaign ads. And this is leading some people to believe that Donald Trump's plan for this trial is to use it as a device to campaign, as a tool to get his message out there. And this isn't new. In 2016 and in 2020, Donald Trump essentially manipulated the media into giving him billions of dollars of free advertisement. He's not good at much, but he is good at getting his face on the news. But so far, the trial doesn't seem to be going how he planned. It seems to be backfiring on him, because yesterday, if you check Twitter, what you'd see trending is hashtag Sleepy Don or hashtag Don Snorleone, which undermines the years of attacks that Republicans have levied against Joe Biden, calling him Sleepy Joe, saying he's almost senile. And here we have Donald Trump falling asleep in court for multiple minutes, multiple times during the court hearing. And even his campaign advisor, Jason Miller, posted a tweet saying wall to wall, showing that Trump is getting wall to wall coverage. So this shows that, yeah, they are trying to manipulate the media, but it is not going exactly how they planned. Because, yeah, well, this will play really well to his fan base. I mean, he could piss himself in court and people in his fan base would be cheering him on. I think the average independent voter will not appreciate seeing pictures of Donald Trump in court with bloodshot eyes and hearing that Donald Trump is very, very sleepy all of the time. And I can imagine that it's hard to stay awake when you stayed up all night tweeting about FISA warrants or tweeting about Michael Cohen or tweeting about Judge Merchan's daughter. So yeah, of course Donald Trump is going to be tired and fall asleep in court. And if I want to be charitable, sure, the process is probably boring. Donald Trump is an old dude. We know he's lazy. We know for a fact that when he was in the White House, he wouldn't get out of bed until 11 a.m. So this lazy old dude who's sitting through this boring process, sure, he can close his eyes. I'm sure it's not that unusual, but the fact that he actually fell asleep is not looking good for his campaign, especially at such a high stakes time when Joe Biden seems to be rising in the polls, seems to be fundraising historic numbers, seems to be giving all of these killer speeches like the State of the Union one, and we get all of this news, all of this wall-to-wall coverage of Donald Trump not doing too well in court. So that is obviously backfiring on them, but another thing that's backfiring is his idea that Judge Merchan is some wicked Democrat who's out to get him or is funded by his daughter. Whatever the conspiracy theory is, it is being debunked as the days go by, because we saw Judge Merchan make some very impartial rulings about what evidence would be allowed in court. I mean, he rejected the entry of the Access Hollywood tapes. He rejected saying that Melania was pregnant while this cheating happened because he said this would be prejudicial. So over and over, Donald Trump tries to undermine this and say he's being unfairly targeted or unjustly persecuted, but time and time again, we see this debunked as Judge Merchan does his job. I mean, he's a very, very experienced justice, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do. It's great seeing the process work as it's supposed to. Even when it comes to the jury selection, we saw out of the several hundred potential jurors, we saw 96 of them go through voir dire yesterday, which means they were asked questions about whether they can be unbiased, and 50 of them were thrown out of the jury pool because they said they can't put their biases aside. So again, it shows that the process is working exactly how it's supposed to work. This isn't quite the tilted trial that Donald Trump has been making it out to be. And again, this won't really matter to his core fan base. Like, there's nothing in the world that could stop them from liking him. But I think there are a lot of independents, a lot of, let's say, Nikki Haley voters that will be turned off by the fact that Donald Trump is constantly lying. Donald Trump constantly has these outbursts on Truth Social. Donald Trump can't even stop himself from attacking Judge Merchan's family members because he's that impulsive. Would an innocent person do that? I don't think so.
Get here, you know, the wheels of justice grind slowly. I did not think they would grind so slowly that they would rock the defendant apparently to sleep at the defense table today. I mean, I have to say, I was not there. I do not know if he was asleep. It is possible he was, you know, meditating or just resting his eyes or something. I don't know. But like, that's those headlines, you know, on the front page of the New York Times, front page of the Washington Post, front page of the Huffington Post, front page of multiple news outlets today coming out of this, that Trump appeared to fall asleep on the first day of his trial, those are going to stick. I mean, I know it's not the most important legal thing, but we are in the middle of a campaign, and the age issue is the main thing the Trump campaign wants to use against his opponent. The whole Sleepy Joe thing. I mean, this is, as you said, Ari, this is the most historic thing that Donald Trump has ever done. No president no former president ever has been a criminal defendant. And on day one, the headlines coming out of it are that he appeared to doze off. To me, that's just, I mean, it's insane. It's also a reminder of how scary, however scary and somber and important this is. We're also dealing with somebody who is just fundamentally buffoonish. And this will be as much a reminder of that as it is of all the more serious things here that are at stake. You know, this is
That clip of Rachel Maddow is great, but it also helps build my argument that a lot of the coverage Donald Trump got out of day one is not what he was looking for. It seems suboptimal for somebody running a campaign. And I can imagine when he walked into that courthouse and walked up to those cameras that morning, he was trying to act like he is some macho man who doesn't even care if he gets prosecuted. He's trying to act like he is above the system and he's happy to be there to show how corrupt it is. But that is not the narrative that we saw. We saw that Donald Trump was tired. He didn't want to be there. We saw that a lot of this unfavorable coverage will stick. It'll stick on these mainstream news outlets. People will be bringing this up for the rest of the election. Watch this other clip of Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes.
Well, just to Rachel's point about the campaign dynamics, the optics of all this, and the sustained eye resting that apparently happened in the courtroom. I mean, I do feel like if you call your opponent Sleepy Joe, you have one job. For the rest of the campaign, which is like you got to like Clockwork Orange those puppies, like open at all times.
Clockwork Orange is one of my favorite Stanley Kubrick movies, but that's besides the point. The point is that Donald Trump's court run so far has backfired tremendously on him and his campaign. And the thing is, this is only the first trial. We're not sure how many we'll get to before the election because we have this whole Supreme Court argument to go through, but so far this has backfired. And when it comes to absolute immunity, it's really interesting because when I'm on the field talking to these Trump supporters, I always ask them, do you think a president like Donald Trump should have absolute immunity? And they always say, oh yeah, of course. And then I ask the most obvious follow-up in the world, which is, do you think Joe Biden should have absolute immunity? And I see them physically recoil and say, oh, no. And the most interesting argument that I've heard actually came from the man himself, Jack Smith. Basically, Jack Smith cites President Ford's pardoning of President Nixon following the Watergate scandal and shows that by Nixon accepting this pardon, it's implied that both he and Ford understand that a president, a former president, is subject to prosecution even if they commit a crime while in office. So Trump's legal team is trying to use all of these different precedents that I don't fully understand. I'm not a legal mind, so I don't know fully about Marbury versus Madison and all of the little niche facts about it, but I do know that if you look at some of the more obvious precedents in history, I mean, just 60 years ago, Nixon got pardoned, and why would they pardon Nixon if he was immune? So it's going to be really interesting to see Trump become increasingly unhinged as this trial goes on and continue to post on Truth Social, continue to fall asleep because he stayed up too late posting on Truth Social. Let me know what you guys think about the trial so far. If you have any predictions, drop them in the comments below. Comment a blue heart if you made it this far. Don't forget to like the video, but most importantly, don't forget to have a great rest of your day.